Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Stand Tall. It is Monday, the 27th of November, and very appropriate because we are starting a new chapter, Chapter 4 in the Art of War, Tactical Dispositions. Let's start off with verse 1. Sun Tzu said, "The good fighters of old first put themselves beyond the possibility of defeat, and then waited for an opportunity of defeating the enemy." That's right, short and sweet this time. Let's go over to an alternate translation. We like to get a different perspective. So in this translation, it is entitled Formation, Chapter 4. Dumu says, "You see the inner condition of opponents by means of their external formations. The inner condition of the formless is inscrutable, whereas that of those who have adopted a specific form is obvious. The inscrutable win, the obvious lose." So be formless, right? Be an enigma. Wang Chi says that those skilled in military operations are able to change their formations in such a way as to ensure victory based on the actions of the opponents. They're adaptable, right? Zheng Yu says that this means the offensive and defensive formation used by two armies, when they are hidden within, they cannot be known to others. When they are visible without, opponents can come in through chinks. Formation is revealed by attack and defense, so discussion of formation follows the discussion of planning a siege. So, Master Sun says, in ancient times, skillful warriors first made themselves invincible and then watched for vulnerability in opponents. So, you have to work on yourself first before attacking the world, right? So, like when we talk about things like emotions and such, and like if we're being the Sun Tzu of our emotions, the Sun Tzu of our minds, it's we have to accept first that we have these emotions before we can actually control them. Jang Yu says, making yourself invincible means knowing yourself. Waiting for vulnerability in opponents means knowing others. Mei Yaochin says, hide your form, be orderly within, and watch for gaps and slack. I like Mei Yaochin here because it's just like, be orderly within, right? Discipline equals freedom, right? Jocko Willing. Like, the more control you have over yourself, the more discipline you have, the more you're able to be adaptable, to control your form. Then he says, watch for slack. It's easy. It's easy to slack off sometimes. The holidays are here. Things are, it's easy to overeat if you're on a diet. It's easy to not work out because it's cold outside. We have all of these excuses that are these chinks in our armor, so to speak. November 27th from the Daily Stoic. So this is where we take Eastern warfare philosophy and we marry it with Western Stoicism. Starting with a quote by Marcus Aurelius, November 27th, entitled The Pleasure of Tuning Out the Negative. Oh, this is going to be good. How satisfying it is to dismiss and block out any upsetting or foreign impression and immediately to have peace in all things. Marcus Aurelius, Meditations 5.2. The Stoics were mercifully spared the information overload endemic to today's society. Ouch. It's true though. We do have like so much information that today's day and age is about being an information filter. The people who are really successful in certain brain jobs, right? As opposed to physical labor jobs, they're the ones who can take all this crazy information out there and be a filter and bring order to chaos. They had no social media, no newspapers, no television chatter to rile them up. But even back then, an undisciplined person would have found plenty to be distracted and upset by, right? Gladiator games and all of that. Part of the Stoic mindset then was a sort of cultivated ignorance. Publilius Cyrus's epigram expresses it well. Always shun that which makes you angry, meaning turn your mind away from the things that provoke it. If you find that discussing politics at the dinner table leads to fighting, why do you keep bringing it up? If your siblings' life choices bother you, why don't you stop picking at them and making them your concern? The same goes for so many other sources of aggravation. This is so true. The stoic, like the hard thing to do is to continually do that, right? Just like, oh, hold on, I'm gonna look up his name. Was it Ho Young Mei Yaochin? Just like Mei Yaochin says, be orderly within and watch for gaps and cracks. So when all of this is happening, that's your gap or your crack that you need to be mindful of. It's not a sign of weakness to shut them out. Instead, it's a sign of strong will. Try saying, I know the action, excuse me, I know the reaction I typically take in these situations, and I'm not going to do it this time. And then follow it with, I'm also going to remove this stimulus from my life in the future as well, because what follows is peace and serenity. All right, so personally, take this for what you will, but I, and I mean, it's just, this is just happenstance. This isn't like by plan or anything. I mean, not that I like read this like a week in advance or whatever to like plan for this, but I would argue on Facebook a lot. I get involved in these professional groups for my trade, and it's easy to go against each other and to argue things like what's in the code book and is it acceptable, etc. And then I think we all know the Russian, like the Russian and the Chinese, troll farms and everything like that are out there just spreading misinformation, whether it be about what happened recently or the moon landing being fake and things like that. And it's in flat earth and everything. I think flat earth is a big one that people bring up. And it's like these things are done by Russian and Chinese troll farms of literally people hired by the government, by those governments, to distract us. And it's very easy to argue with someone who believes in the flat earth, and it just turns out it's probably not even a real person. I mean, it's probably a real person, but they probably don't truly believe that. They're just being paid to rile you up and distract you, from like learning actual actionable things. So I deleted Facebook from my phone. I still log on from time to time. I give myself like a minute every day to go on and check my business page, and if it's time to run an ad, I mean, I haven't gotten that far yet, but when I have to run an ad or a new campaign, we'll get there. And the thing is with like all that arguing and fighting, I mean, it was causing division between me and my wife. It was causing division between me and myself, right? Between my values as like being a father and wanting to spend time with my son. Because instead of like paying attention to him, I'm sitting here trying to like finish up whatever point I'm making about why the earth is not flat and why it is indeed rounded or whatever, I'm arguing about whatever in the electrical code book. And it was just causing all of this like pent up anger. And after deleting it, it's like finding peace and tranquility within, just like the reflection in the Daily Stoic. And so I think as we move forward, how do we marry that? If we're looking for peace and tranquility and we're going to say, I'm not going to take that thought or that action in response to whatever external stimuli, then we're going to follow what Mei Yao Chen says and like be aware of those, have the discipline and be aware of those chinks in our own armor, because through that's how we stand tall.